all this under, are we really doing this again? Is the President of the United States really questioning the efficacy of masks again? Because there really isn't any debate here, not among anyone who is serious about protecting themselves or their loved ones, the community or the country. There is not a debate about whether they are a good idea. There is not a debate about their effectiveness, despite what you might have heard just there with Cal. Take a look at all of the spikes in cases across the country. What were the common denominators that brought them down? Lockdowns and mask wearing, putting a small piece of fabric over your nose and mouth while you are in contact with other human beings. It is not that hard. But for some reason, the President of the United States thinks unnamed waiters, no shade to waiters, are more trustworthy on the science than his own CDC director. He didn't understand the question, the President repeated yesterday to reporters in the White House briefing room. The President was trying to dismiss Director Redfield out of hand for telling lawmakers that he, quote, might even go so far as to say that this face mask is more guaranteed to protect me against COVID than when I take a COVID vaccine, because the immunogenicity may be 70%. And if I don't get an immune response, the vaccine is not going to protect me. This face mask will. In case you were wondering, the question was asked by Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed. I'm going to read the whole thing so there's no ambiguity. Quote, I was particularly struck how emphatic you all were in insisting that the use of face masks is absolutely critical in a social setting. You're all wearing face masks. I have mine. I took it off so I could question. Yet last evening, the president once again disparaged the importance of wearing face masks. He does not wear one usually. He's conducted rallies in which many of the participants are not with face masks. He doesn't have a face mask. So let me just ask all of you, is the president providing appropriate leadership when it comes to this critical issue? One of the most direct and important things anyone can do to protect themselves and the country and the community from this disease. Admiral Giroir, quote, wearing a mask is one of the most important things we can do to prevent spread. Assistant HHS Secretary Kadlec, quote, we're supportive of the masks. That's why we produced 500 million of them. And I'll let CDC Director Redfield speak for himself.
I'm not going to comment directly about the president, but I am going to comment as the CDC director that face masks, these face masks are the most important, powerful public health tool we have. And I will continue to appeal for all Americans, all individuals in our country, to embrace these face coverings. I've said it, if we did it for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, we'd bring this pandemic under control. These actually, we have clear scientific evidence they work, and they are our best defense. I might even go so far as to say that this face mask is more guaranteed to protect me against COVID than when I take a COVID vaccine, because the immunogenicity may be 70%. And if I don't get an immune response, the vaccine's not going to protect me. This face mask will.
It sounds like he understood the question just fine. But wait, in case you still are not convinced, Dr. Redfield tweeted this last night. The best defense we currently have against the virus are the important mitigation efforts of wearing a mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and being careful about crowds. There is not, again, a debate among serious people. It isn't unbelievable. It is believable because it is science. The masks work. Either the president doesn't understand basic science or he doesn't want to. Either way, that isn't good. So let us not endanger more of our friends, neighbors, parents, grandparents, or children. Listen to the public health experts who are, albeit diplomatically, telling you, don't listen to the president. He isn't keeping you safe. And one more thing, the reason this is so important, the reason why it is so important for the president to get involved in this and on board and behind masks is exactly what you just saw with Cal Perry's report there, because the president's supporters believe him and they trust him. And if he got out there and said, I believe in masks, and if he wore them and if he modeled that behavior, then we would see a change in the behavior of millions of other Americans, which would then lead to millions of other Americans being safer today than they were yesterday.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.